also wanted to point out that the Air Force Academy has more astronauts than Purdue.
Fantastic.
Touche.
For the record, Colombians are much faster than Cubans.
They're also more likely to be drug dealers. This is an age-old battle between Cubans and Colombians. I seem to have stepped in the middle of some battle here. And while we are comparing connections to the moon, I will point out one of the very first words uttered on the surface of the moon was my hometown of Houston. Houston, the Eagle has landed in that. All right, let's get into, Dr. Raman, let's start with you. The first Trump administration's AI initiative emphasized NIST's role in developing basic measurement standards for AI. Under the Biden administration, NIST used its authorities to inspect AI systems for risks from bias and misinformation. At the time, NIST claimed that even when, quote, harmful biases are mitigated, AI is not necessarily fair because it could, quote, exacerbate existing disparities or systematic biases. That is a Bowdlerized way of policing speech on climate change, transgenderism, immigration, and political topics. Elsewhere, NIST called workplace DEI czars critical and suggested companies consider whether AI chatbots might amplify historical, societal, and systemic biases. NIST testing standards became a Trojan horse for progressive social policies with the goal of controlling American speech. Dr. Raman, does NIST have any role in using its measurement and non-regulatory roles to regulate AI speech or to engage in censorship?
No, it does not.
Do you commit to reorienting NIST to its apolitical mission and ensuring that it does not serve as an engine for divisive left-wing ideology, even under the guise of, quote, safety or increasing trust in technology?
I do, Senator.
Thank you. Do you also commit to maintaining NIST as a strictly non-regulatory agency that works through voluntary consensus-based standards?
I do, Senator.
Thank you. All right. NIST often touches on strategic supply chains, such as for semiconductors and critical minerals. Recently, NIST executed letters of intent whereby the federal government would take equity ownership in semiconductor and critical minerals companies, an approach that deviates from NIST's traditional role. Consider critical mineral mining, a complex, complicated industry where sometimes it takes over 20 years to discover mineral deposits, to verify them, to build the needed infrastructure, and to receive the required licenses and permits. Would you agree that federal equity deals tie up taxpayer dollars for a considerable amount of time with no guaranteed return on investment?
Senator, I'm not in the role, so I don't know the details of what may or may not have happened in this case, but I'm committed to making sure that NIST makes best use of resources provided by Congress to advance semiconductor manufacturing and leadership globally.
If NIST holds equity in an underperforming or failing company, could the government be pressured to use taxpayer dollars to hedge losses? Is NIST equipped to make these decisions to protect U.S. taxpayer funds?
Again, Senator, not being in the role, I don't know the details of what may or may not have transpired, so I'm really not in a position to answer that.
In complex sectors like critical minerals, companies often struggle against international competition. Since government ownership comes with risks and taxpayers could end up covering losses, wouldn't it make sense for the government to streamline permitting and encourage domestic competition instead of trying to own and subsidize these companies?
Thank you for that question, Senator. Again, this is outside, I think, the swim lane of NIST, but I'm happy to follow up in conversations about what the role of innovation might be in critical materials processing and manufacturing.
Mr. Anderson, if you are confirmed, describe for this committee what you hope and expect NASA to do regarding the moon?
Senator, I hope and expect that NASA continues to quickly execute the president's national space policy that has been completely supported by yourself, and as we saw yesterday, this entire committee, and we appreciate that at NASA. I think they expect NASA to exercise leadership, talk about space superiority. If you look at that executive order that the president laid out, it was not just national security, it was NASA. There was a whole lot of government parts to that, and there was an order from the president that said, hey, we're going to make sure American space superiority is ensured. It has been backed up by funding. It has been backed up by authorizations and appropriations, and I think that's what the American public expects.
What level of priority would you put to beating China to the moon?
The absolute highest priority, Senator.
That would be the right answer, so I'm glad to hear it. Discuss also the importance of maintaining and keeping astronauts in low Earth orbit as we transition from the International Space Station to commercial space stations.
Thank you, Senator. It's absolutely critical. The first word of the ISS is international, and that means we have a lot of partners invested in this. And it's also competition with China. Our adversary is already in low Earth orbit. We cannot cede American leadership in low Earth orbit.
Well, thank you to both of the witnesses. My final question is required of all nominees. If confirmed, do you pledge to work collaboratively with this committee to provide thorough and timely responses to the committee's requests and to appear before the committee when requested?
Yes. I do.
Thank you. I have 45 letters of support from various organizations for the nomination of Mr. Anderson. I ask unanimous consent that these letters be inserted into the hearing record without objection, so ordered. Senators will have until the close of business on Saturday, March 7th to submit questions for the record. The nominees will have until the close of business on Tuesday, March 10th to respond to those questions. And with that, that concludes today's hearing. The committee stands adjourned.